Hey, so hopefully that worked. That awesome music that you were hearing is a gift from Ken Wheeler. Check out his SoundCloud. He's got some cool stuff on there. He said I could use that for my thing. Okay, so for today's dev tips with Kent, I've been struggling with Webpack, some Webpack hot module replacement stuff, and so I thought that I'd show you. I finally found out the solution thanks to some help from some nice people. So anyway, here we have a really kind of a silly application. We've got this get element by ID root because we just have a basic HTML file. And then we have this render things function, which will render stuff. And then we're using React, this has nothing to do with React actually. We're using require context, which is a Webpack thing, to require all the files that match this regex, starting right here, which is like the source directory. So if I pop that open, all the files that have .example. So what I'm doing is I'm actually building a storybook-like experience type thing that's more specific for what I'm looking for. So that's what's kind of motivating this. So anyway, yeah, it's going to find anything that matches .examples.js, and then it's going to get all the things. And from here, it's like silly. So you have context.keys that'll give you just an array of all the modules. And then the context function itself is like the require function. You pass the path of one of those keys and it will require that file. And then that's all the things. We're going to stringify all the things. So we've got capital bats and capital bunnies. If we look at bunnies.example, we're going to get import bunnies from bunnies, which is just that. And then we're going to take each of those, map them to uppercase, right? So pretty silly. We're doing something similar with the bats. And so really all that I really wanted to get was whenever one of the example files changes or one of its dependencies, I want hot module replacement. And yeah, that was the idea. So right now, if I, let's see, where'd my terminal thing go? There we go. Right now, if I make a change to, oh, and I also wanted to make it so that if I change the index file, that it also will hot module replace. Yeah. So here's where I'm at. We kind of have things messed up. Now we've got this max call stack size exceeded and cannot apply update. You know, it's not accepted. Okay, well, let's deal with this ugly error first. So the problem that I had is if we look at our package.json here, I'm using Webpack serve because Webpack dev server has been deprecated. Well, I don't know if it's officially deprecated, but they're not maintaining it anymore. They're maintaining Webpack serve now. And so yeah, I'm running the dev script that's using Webpack serve. And what Webpack serve will do is it will read your Webpack configuration, and if if it has a serve property, then it's going to apply some things. And here I'm saying I want hot module replacement enabled. I want hot true. And I haven't enabled these other properties yet. But yeah, I want it to enable hot module replacement. And so what it does, it actually will add the hot module replacement plugin for you. And so we don't need this plugin at all. And so we'll get rid of that. We restart our dev server. And I'll refresh here. Let me clear out my console. Right now I have this thing enabled to preserve the log so we can see even after it refreshes. So yeah, it's rendering. Then we go to index here and I'm going to say rendering 2 and no more error. We do see that it is navigating, and that's because index.js is not accepted. So that makes sense. But yeah, at least we're not seeing that error anymore, because the reason that was happening was because we had 2 instances of hot module replacement plugin, and I think they're going to add some validation so that doesn't happen again. Hopefully, we'll see. Maybe you could, that'd be great. So the next thing is we're going to add if module.hot. So if hot module replacement is enabled, then we're going to say module.hot.accept. And the first argument to accept is the dependency that you want to accept updates from. But like right now, we're just going to accept ourself. And there's, I think you might be able to just do like I don't know, index.js, like the same file. I haven't tried that because there's actually an easier way. If you don't pass a dependency or an array of dependencies here, if you pass your callback function instead, then it will listen to itself. So we'll say render things, and we'll refresh. And let me get rid of this thing. I'll list over. And now I'm going to change this to rendering 3, and no refresh. Ta-da! So it reruns itself and reruns that render things callback. So that's neat. So yeah, I got myself. I'm listening to myself now. And now this is kind of like intentional here. I'm saying context up here and then assigning it inside of render things. And the reason that I'm doing that is because if I want to also listen to all of those files, all the example files, then I can add a module.hot.accept context.id. And that context ID, you'll see what that is here in a second. But then we add a callback, so render things. And with that, now I can go to like, here, let's do bunnies example. And instead of to uppercase, whoops, to lowercase. And you see, I didn't have to refresh for that. There's no like navigating or anything. And yeah, it reran the render function, which is pretty cool. So what happened here is that is the value of context.id, and I guess Webpack just knows, oh, okay, so this matches. That's why it was updated or whatever. I'm going to call your callback, and now we re-render. And what's happening here is in the render things, we are doing this require. It's a context call, but that's basically a require call. And so we're getting the new edition of this module. So before I actually had this up here, that didn't work because when the hot module replacement takes place, the modules change and I need to get the context anew. So I do it in here. So yeah, just a couple like other handy things. This is super noisy, really annoying to me. So I turn the log level to warn, so I get my warnings. Also, like in general, I just kind of don't like all these informative things, so I'm gonna change the log level to warn there. And actually, I don't even know whether I want it to reload or not. Probably I want it to reload. I think that's the default, but I'll just enable that. Yeah, so that was pretty much the biggest thing. Don't put hot module replacement plugin in twice. And know that Webpack serve is going to add that for you if you enable hot module replacement. Another handy thing here is with what I'm doing here is I know that I'm using Webpack serve because they set a Webpack serve variable, and so that's kind of nifty. I can parse that. They set it to true, and so I can parse it, and if it's true, then serve will be true. Because if you don't do something like this, then like and say yeah, if you don't, then it's going to blow up and say, hey, you're like, if I run the build script, I'm not running Webpack serve, then it's going to blow up and say, hey, serve isn't a valid property. And that's kind of annoying. I wish that they wouldn't do that, but because they do, we're going to say or null. And unfortunately, that's not enough. Even undefined wouldn't be enough. You have to actually, the object can't have any of those unaccepted properties. So that's why I have this remove empty function that I wrap my config around. I should get rid of this thing. Go down. I don't know how to make this. This remove empty will take an input and remove all properties that are not equal or that are equal to null, undefined and null. Yeah, hopefully that's helpful. I spent the last couple days working on this. It was super annoying, and I'm glad that it's over. So yeah, I'll see you all next time. Peace.